Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Wadier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Wadier, and I'm here as always with my good friend and colleague, Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
Doing fantastic, my friend. Today we're going to jump into the holiday horror, and we're going to talk about the dreaded weight gain and the misinformation that's out there around it, and how we frame our holiday season through the Fasting for Life lens. And I think it's going to be a really great conversation, dispelling some myths, and hopefully you guys leave today's conversation and episode with some encouragement and a game plan, because as this episode drops early in the wee hours of Tuesday morning, Thanksgiving is a mere week away. So it is next week.
Yeah.
We've already gone through Halloween. And if you guys have kids out there, if you're here in the States, you know that luckily our school does not allow the candy and all of that stuff. It is all little like toys and trinkets and gift bags and stickers and all that kind of thing. But It's all around us. It's been out there on the shelves for months, so we're in the thick of it. And we want to make sure that to you guys, if you're new to the podcast, we want you to have the tools and the framework to go through this holiday season successfully. If you've been with us for a while and you're accustomed to kind of how we go about adapting the Fasting for Life or the insulin-friendly lifestyle or fasting lifestyle into our day-to-day lives, we want to re-engage with y'all and have a conversation and kind of just frame out what it looks like for us and then what it can also look like for you, the listener. So, exciting news as well. Next episode is our 100th episode, so stay tuned. We're going to do something special for that. And one more announcement, as Tommy is laughing here, that we have our final challenge of the year. So November 17th, very strategically situated the week before Thanksgiving, November 17th, last 7-day fasting ramp-up challenge of the year. And it is going to be an absolute game changer. So we're going to talk about how that fits into the holiday plans for some of you, hopefully most of you. And November 17th, you can go to the show notes and the link is there for more information. If you have questions, feel free to reach out, info@thefastingforlife.com. All right, Tommy, as we get into today's topic and conversation of holidays and the holiday weight gain and the holiday horror show, there's a misconception out there that the typical American will gain anywhere between 5 to 8, sometimes 10 pounds during the holiday season. And what's actually come to light with recent research articles is that is not necessarily true. So we're going to unpack that. And then we want to talk about this dichotomy of urgency versus patience. And we're going to share a really cool testimonial from someone who shared it in our group that will allow us to kind of unpack that, connecting that to what the holidays can and should look like based on how we've experienced it recently and through all of the conversations that we've had. So with that in mind, lots of different avenues, lots of different rabbit holes, lots of different arrows pointing in different directions. But I want to start with the fact that the holiday weight gain, and don't worry, we'll give you some direct action steps here at the end, is been said to be, they think they gain about 5 pounds during the holidays. And what actually is happening, and that's from November to January, and what, the AKA dreaded winter weight, right? what actually happens is in the studies that we've looked at is that it's anywhere between, 3/4 of a pound all the way up to about 2.5 pounds. So if
Right.
we average that out to about a pound and a half, somewhere in that range, and it's not that it is the amount during the holidays, right? Like that 5 or 10 pounds, but it's that the research shows that that 1.5 pounds is never again re-lost. So
Yeah.
it's something that kind of builds
Right.
over the years, over the decades, and they found that you don't tend to shed that. So in the looking at the
Mhm.
micro, like in just that 1 year difference from November to January to the following year, it doesn't seem like a big deal.
Right.
But the fact that 70+% of Americans are overweight, we're approaching 45% obese, and we know the complications that come with that. Um, and there's also the evidence out there that the body's set point or the insulin resistant, the weight loss resistant side of things as well. That very few people are metabolically healthy,
Right.
12% or less, and that 5% all the way up to 25%, depending on the studies, show that keeping that weight off long term. So the stats are stacked against us.
So what do
So
we do?
yeah, where do we go from here? What do we do now that we've dispelled the myth that, oh no, it's just the holidays? Well, no, I believe it's probably the habits throughout the year, and talking about that patience versus urgency, and like, is now the time to really kind of dive in and commit to doing a
hmm
challenge, let's say, or
Yeah.
putting some intention into the holiday season?
Yeah. Some sort of new plan. Like, can I really divert my mental focus? I have so many things coming at me from different directions going into the end of the year. Can I really try something new, or can I really like put the focused energy that I know it's going to take to actually get to my maintenance goal, or drop the pounds I've been looking to drop? But when you start talking about the holidays and the holiday horror show, like, it just reminds me of those blinders that I used to put on, because I knew what the cycle was going to look like. Because for me, I was more in that, like, that 5 to 10 pound kind of camp, going from like end of summer into towards the end of holiday season. And because there would be kind of this break in the urgency for like my diet motivation, there was frustration from earlier in the year. And when you start talking about just the fact that it may only be for most people like a pound or two, but it's accumulating over time, and it's building. It's like a snowball effect, but in the wrong direction. But there's physiological reasons behind this, because when we put on that extra pound or two, it takes an actual deliberate effort to clear out the glycogen stores and to get into ketosis, so we can actually burn through those couple of pounds later on. And if we don't do that in a very deliberate way, we don't pay back that time calorie debt that we've created, we're not just going to stumble upon it by accident and accidentally burn through that and prevent that accumulation going from year to year. And that's exactly why we thought this was the only time that like we could put another challenge in at the end of the year. We're like, should we do it right before Thanksgiving week? That seems like that's going to be
Counterintuitive,
tough.
right?
Yeah, it's going to be tough for a lot of people to kind of mentally kind of wrap their mind around, like, no, I think I'm just going to put it off until after the holidays, right? That's when I'm going to need it. But no, like, if you can prevent that pound or two from accumulating this year and tap into what's happened over from the years past, now you're talking about finishing the year strong and going into next year like unstoppable.
Yeah, it's that encouragement piece where it's like, once, and if you guys have been with us for a while and you've been fasting, that, or maybe you've done a challenge with us and you've been one of the people that's lost 8+ pounds on average during a 7-day challenge. And it's not a 7-day fast. It's, using fast cycling windows of 18 hours all the way up to 36, sometimes 42 hours, 48 hours, depending on, which schedule you choose, because we have different schedules during the 7 days that are based on your experience and desired outcome and goals.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that what you just framed out there was like, okay, sometimes some of you now have the answer and you're like, nah, I'm just not going to do it now. Like,
Right.
I know my tires need to be rotated, but I'm going to wait till January because I know I got another 4,000 to 6,000 miles on the tread. Right.
Yeah. You
So
know
it's
who to
like, once,
call. And
Yeah, you're like, I got the fix, right?
Right.
Yeah, I can just pull that lever, boom, I got the fix. So
Yeah.
the idea of this urgency versus patience was an interesting conversation that kind of connected some of the dots here with your story and then how we're going to frame out what the holidays could and should, in our opinion, look like. And that really starts with the story that we saw, the testimonial that we saw in one of the community groups, in one of our groups, excuse me. And it was really eye-opening in what you said about you personally and your journey that was different than the success that this gentleman saw. And I mean, okay, first let's unpack the story or the result, and then we'll unpack this conversation or dichotomy between urgency of doing it now or having the patience and the plan to get the result long term, or just, yeah, I've got the answer, I'll just go, I'll fix it when I need to.
Yeah, when I need to. At some point in the future, I'll pull that lever, and then, but
1 pound, I can lose that anytime. Well,
right.
The stats show that we don't.
Yeah, we don't, right? It takes deliberate, focused effort on that, and that's the thing. Like, there's when you have that, when you're ready to take it to the next level, like you have to hit the gas and you have to follow that momentum. And like the story that you're bringing up, Eddie from the group here posted that he actually dropped 90 pounds between May and October doing one meal a day, doing OMAD. And I mean, that is incredible. He's not the first person that we've seen a post from,
Is it the norm?
Something. No, there's no, like OMAD is a powerful tool, but most people don't take it, into the almost triple digit range as a long-term, like fixed solution.
Right.
And it's absolutely incredible. But
I want to be clear here, though. The first resource that we ever created was a 1 meal a day resource.
Right.
And it was because of our personal failures and a lot of the feedback that we'd heard about intermittent fasting. Like there was some stuff that was taking place when you got past that 16 to 18 hour mark, not just, physiologically with consumption of calories and hormone balance and resist insulin and all that, but it was like this mental thing. And then you started to feel the benefits and you're like, wait a minute, now I actually feel like I have control to be able to pull those levers.
Yeah.
So I love that, we do have people that, are triple digits, right? That by doing OMAD. And it was interesting that when you saw that, you're like, I don't have that kind of patience, which was at first I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, look at the results you've gotten. Right.
Right. But OMAD is such a powerful tool, but this is like 5 to 6 months of just persistent, consistent progress, just day in, day out, clocking in, getting the results, moving on to the next day. So, I mean, it is just consistently happening over time, but like most people don't have that persistent patience like that to take it over that 6 month period and just do the same thing every day, see the results, but they're not going to necessarily show up on the scale every single day. I mean, even if you're dropping like 0.2, 0.3 pounds a day, it's not necessarily showing up. You're not always getting the feedback. And I think that's where my lack of, patience is like, in contrast to Eddie here.
Yeah, you also have a strategicness to you as well that it's like, well, no, I'm gonna figure this out where I can accelerate this. I want to try this. I want to get here. So like the reason I love this, and shout out Eddie, like incredible work. Especially, overcoming, never mind just the weight loss, but the health challenges that come with that as well. So shout out. And to juxtapose that to the urgency piece is the low and slow method of that patient kind of just consistent, Candace has been one of our, original people who did a similar path. Right. And it just worked. Right. So, the urgency piece to me comes in around this time of year, specifically because I remember what the holidays used to feel like, and they felt very uncomfortable for me because growing up in New England, I used to have a lot of allergies and asthma and inflammation and things like that. So
Yep.
I didn't know I was insulin resistant. I didn't know that I was on the path to pre-diabetes and diabetes. I didn't really connect the dots as to what I was doing on a day-to-day basis and how it wasn't helping. And then around the holidays, it was just like I would know, in my late 20s that I wouldn't feel great, right? Standard operating procedure. Look around you, around Thanksgiving, and people are always like, "Oh, I just ate so much. I just feel so full. I'm tired.
Right.
It's the tryptophan." And I'm like, no, it's the
Always the
bolus of
tryptophan.
food that just completely like turns your blood into caterpillar blood
Yep.
because there's so much extra energy that's trying to be processed, and your body's like, well, I don't know what to do with it, so I'm just gonna
Right.
shuttle it into the basement storage into into
Yeah.
fat storage because I don't, and your liver's gonna become filled with glycogen, and your muscles are gonna be stuffed to the brim with
Right.
short term energy stores, and your
And
body
you're just
just
going to want
goes
to go to
into
sleep.
yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the next day turkey sandwich on homemade sourdough
Sure. Yeah.
with a little bit of cranberry sauce and a little bit of gravy or stuffing, depending on where you're from. Don't get me wrong. I love that. But looking back to those old holidays versus recently with fasting, I can know that I go into and we hear this from people as well. I can go into the holiday not needing to have that decision point of I'm just going to wait. I can still have some urgency simply by putting some boundaries and some frameworks in place because I know that what I used to feel like, I never want to go back there again.
Yeah.
Putting some boundaries, knowing you have the confidence, still being able to have a little bit of urgency and not just say, I'll just start after the new year, because we know that doesn't work for the majority of people. We know that the stats show that, long term, that doesn't work either. So it's like, patience is a virtue, as my grandma always used to say. And I never felt like I had any of it. So I accelerated my journey as well, got to maintenance, and I've kind of just been hanging out, right? Not really having to have that extra urgency.
Hmm.
So I just love the idea that um, we can be counterculture, we can be uh, intentional, we can enjoy the holiday and still keep that level of urgency kind of in the shadows. Like we don't have to just give it up and be like, no, I'll start after the first of the year.
Yeah. And like, Eddie, he reminded me of that urgency whenever I saw that post, and I was thinking about, my own journey. And I mean, I probably spent several months, just dropping the first 20 pounds, doing mostly OMAD and, just kind
Mm-hmm.
of experimenting and kind of pushing the boundaries and getting comfortable with the methods. And, it reminded me the fact that, like you talked about kind of shoveling that extra energy into long-term fat storage. Well, like there's a physiological reason why that actually happens, because when we sit down to a meal, especially if it's a more indulgent meal, or let's say a holiday, get together, or there's desserts, anything that's going to keep insulin high, or we just consume more than we normally would, we're going to have to store most of those calories. Like we can only siphon off a few hours worth, and then it's going to be our next eating opportunity, right? So if we're not deliberately fasting between those meals, to set up some boundaries so that insulin can come down, then we're going to have to store those as long-term fat. But so that means each meal, each pound that I've accumulated, that created this time calorie debt for myself that I'm going to have to pay back if I want to lose that weight and to get to a healthier weight. So that's where the urgency comes in for me, where I said, well, here's the method. It's working. I know what I need to do now. So how do I consistently do that over time? Let me get the process started, and then let me find the ways to keep motivating myself to keep moving forward so that I can hit those long-term goals, so I can get to the healthy weight, so I can feel better. Allergies, asthma, sleep apnea, just like gone
Blood
finally.
pressure, all that stuff. Yep.
Right. And then feeling better, and like just going into the holidays, like I barely remember, but you just reminded me of like the insecurity that I would have
Right.
going into the holidays. Like I don't really want to see all the family and friends and stuff like that, because I'm up a few pounds from last time I saw them, like last Christmas. And I don't want to do that. And I don't want them to see me, eating a piece of pumpkin pie, which I really enjoy and I only eat once a year, but it's like,
Boh.
I, but I know it's not what's good for me in that moment. I wish I could enjoy it without the guilt.
Right.
But so figuring out how to get the process started and leave all that stuff behind, like that was incredibly empowering.
So let's unpack that here in just a second, but I want to make sure that we landed the plane on the fact that the myth of the holiday weight gain is 5 to 10 pounds. It's the fact that you can't lose it on the back end. And in this article, this researcher Cuck said that weight loss can be more complicated than the typical recommendation: eat less, exercise more. Sure. And I'm like, if I couldn't agree with that, if I could jump up and down right now and the microphone would come with me, I'd be like, yes, that's it. Pick me, like in the movie Shrek, where the donkey's like, ooh, pick me. Like,
I know the answer.
That is the crux of it. And what you just said there was, you didn't want to have the guilt or that feeling or that. And that's what it was for me going into the holidays a few years back after losing all the weight. Mm-hmm. Like, I knew that I had the confidence and the control, and I actually enjoyed the holiday way more than I used to. And it's interesting because it's not really complex. Like, what we're about to unpack here is not earth shattering new, research. Like, it's nothing like that profound, right? But it's the intentionality behind it. So I want to make sure, as we frame out, this next challenge that's coming up, that starts tomorrow. So it's not too late. Go to the website, go to the show notes, click on the link, get signed up. We're going to be, starting tomorrow with just a level of excitement and energy that I never think we can top from the last time. And then every time we do a new challenge, I'm like, yep, that's my favorite one. Yep, that's my new favorite. Yep, that's my new favorite. So we're really excited for that. That starts tomorrow. But as we unpack what we're going to do for the holidays, there's a few things of just taking a minute and looking at what is my end goal and delaying the commitment to put some intentionality in a few of these things we're about to mention into place. Mm-hmm. What does it look like to delay that versus to engage it now? And I'm going to say that our brains are typically going to make it more difficult than it really is. So you're like, I know, I'll be better next time. I'll do it next time. I'll start on Monday. I'll start after my birthday. I'll start after that wedding we have. I'll start after Thanksgiving. I'll start after 4th of July. I'll start after vacation, right? So the number one thing to really go into this holiday season with is, one, do the challenge. If you've done a challenge, come back. It'll be a great reset, great re-engagement. But having a plan, knowing where you're going, when you're going, how many houses you're going to if you're getting together with family. If you have traditions like specialties that you like to indulge, like even from the article that we referenced a few times, it was like, pick your favorite dessert and only eat the amount that it'll take you to be satisfied. So these small little decision points, but having a plan and taking into account, setting some boundaries and setting some time windows, like time restricted feeding research articles, which means you're limiting the window of opportunity to spike insulin and blood sugar, which fat stores, weight gain, fatigue, brain fog, post Thanksgiving naps, all of that stuff. Time restricted coma, time restricted food comas, time restricted feeding really is been shown to be powerful. So just setting your window, don't start eating when you get to the house. Wait until the meal.
Yeah.
So little stuff like that. But let's go through a few more.
Yeah, you get there at 11. You don't have to start eating at 11, right? Like, and maybe dinner's at 4. It doesn't have to be like a 6 or 7 hour grazing session, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying don't enjoy all the things that are there. Don't sample them and things like that. But even if you condense that 6-7 hour grazing session down to maybe like 2 hours, even 4 hours is going to be better, where you have enough time to socialize and to enjoy, but you also had enough time where insulin levels got to come down. You actually got to tap into some of that long-term fat storage instead of just putting more in the whole time. A little bit of boundary and structure, goes a long way right there.
Yeah. So for clarity, have a plan, set some boundaries, put some time restricted feeding windows in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Choose your indulgences. Know you're going to have grandma's. You said pumpkin pie, but I'm not on that. Nope. You can have it. You can have the
Apple
pecan
pie.
pies. You can have
Yeah.
the sweet potato pies. You can have all that stuff. Now, if you give me a cherry or an apple or a
Mm.
blueberry or something like that, yeah, that's more of my,
Well,
not a big dessert sweet person. I like the savory, salty stuff, but
yeah.
making sure you're putting that in there so you have something to look forward to, but you're also setting some boundaries around it too, is really kind of the first part of going into and coming out of the holiday season with some success.
Yeah. So like, but even that, even the pies by themselves, like you go into the grocery store, it's like pies everywhere. Right.
Right.
And like, if that's your thing, even if you
Schools
don't,
have like fundraisers and stuff for it.
yeah,
It's
right.
crazy.
Right. Like baked goods are like everywhere this time of year. But the thing about it is, even if you don't normally get yourself a pie, but it's something that you want, like you can go to the grocery store, you can buy a single slice. Like how many times do we hear, oh man, like I went off the rails on the weekend, or like there were like somebody brought over
Because you bought the whole pie.
you bought the whole pie, right?
You bought
Or
the
somebody,
gallon of ice cream and not the
right,
pint. Yeah.
right. Like control in the moment, in that buying decision moment, buy the smaller one. Just like the boundaries start right there in that moment. Or if somebody brings you over like a tray of brownies, cut out a brownie or two, give away the rest of it. Don't set yourself up for that whole like, oh man, I don't know what happened. I just ended up eating the whole tray, over the weekend, and now I regret it. And now what do I do? Should I do a 100-hour fast now to undo the tray of brownies? No, you shouldn't.
That is a great point. So putting your window, putting your indulgences, picking your things that you're going to love to enjoy, the family traditions, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also do some tangible things in the window, which would be like before and after, which you just talked about, but also like start with some veggies, start with a salad.
Yeah.
Don't stand near the snack table, right? Like I know when I was in full-time clinic, we would get treats and stuff delivered to us consistently, but more,
Mm-hmm.
in the fall season, like there'd be stuff everywhere. And my staff would be like, how do you not eat it? I'm like, well, I send it home with you.
Yeah.
Like take this home out of the office. I got my one. I've got my
Right.
one.
Yeah.
This needs to go. Like bring it next door to the title company.
Right.
Let them have it.
Right.
Like get it out of my space, right?
Uh-huh.
So just when you said that, it brought me back to that. But a couple of things you can do intentionally, not doing 100-hour fast coming in and out of Thanksgiving and prepping for you to go crazy. And then,
Right.
reparations on the back end. Like we want to create these healthy habits long-term in this healthy relationship with food, which is part of the weight loss and, struggles that people deal with. It's not the food. It's the stuff that causes us to go to the food a lot of the times as well. So, starting the meal, you can do, higher, even like protein is good because it's more satiating, right? So I know my wife sometimes will go on date night and she'll have a protein shake before we go on date night. And I'm like, what do you like? That's actually inherently kind of genius, right? I'm like, she's setting herself up. She knows what she's getting off the menu. She's looked at the menu ahead of time. Do the same thing with the holidays, but leading into, there's no need to do a long extended fast prepping for the holiday, right? Because that gives your body and your mind the ability to be like, okay, well, I've created the space for it. Well, if you've still got the weight to lose, you really haven't. You're just going to, put that additional time or calorie debt commitment into the equation.
Yeah.
So start with some consistent shorter fast. Do a little ramp up. Do a 22, a 24, and a 30.
Yeah.
Do 3 or 4 days of OMAD. You want to get the glycogen down so your body doesn't just shuttle all of that excess into long-term storage, like putting it in the deep freeze, right? As we like to say.
Yeah.
And then on the back end, Tommy, coming out, a similar concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Like bookending a holiday like this with those 20 to 24-hour fasts is an excellent way to drop the glycogen down, be able to tap into those long-term fat stores. And then even if Thanksgiving was overly indulgent, there's, multiple meals or, whatever the case may be, on the back end of that, just getting right back into, 18, 20, 24-hour fast. consistently over the next few days is going to be sufficient to drop the glycogen down, tap back into the long-term fat stores, and burn through, whatever came in during the holiday time, and then you're right back on track.
Yeah, you've really never gotten off track if you've done what we just talked about here. So hopefully that is helpful. Hopefully it gives you a plan. Challenge starts tomorrow. Go to the show notes. If you're waiting to join, the time is now. We are putting the urgency back in. This is the last one for this calendar year. And then the next one is going to be in late January. So don't wait. Hop on board. We'd love to see you on the inside, as we like to say. And then put in some of these tangible action steps in terms of setting the intention and some boundaries through this holiday season. We had great conversations today, Tommy. We debunked the myth that 5 to 10 pounds during the holidays, but it's that cumulative effect over the years that we want to avoid. So if you've been with us. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is that the whole reason for the challenge being right now, and if you're thinking about it, but you're kind of on the fence, you're going into the holiday season, this could give you a jump, like a 2-month jump start on like going into next year and the momentum that you can start. So if you have some longer term fat goals, like fat loss goals that you want to get into, this could be the way to get a couple months ahead of it and get the ball moving in the right direction, then going into the holiday season with not just a plan, but new results, and then continue that into next year. So that's why I
cannot believe we hadn't brought that up. This is the fast track. Punt play on words there. This is the fast track. The average weight loss is about 8 pounds during these challenges. So absolutely. Didn't even think about the timing of it. Right. But that right there is the start of 2022 can look much, 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 much different than the start of 2021, 2020, 2019, 2018, et cetera. So great point. I think that's a perfect bow on this episode and this conversation. So Tommy, as always, thank you, sir. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye. So you've heard today's episode and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.